Yeah, it does a countdown when we start. Yeah.
We did it!
Hey guys, this is Alex Serpentine. I'm doing my second episode of my Serpentine Podcast, and today I'll be interviewing Veronica May, who's here.
Hello.
Yes.
It's me. In the screen, not in the flesh.
Yeah, so Veronica's super awesome. She's an amazing musician. She just released a single called Lead with Love, which is on all platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're a mental health advocate. You talk openly about your experience with bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get into that. And you also have a history as a music therapist. So that's part of that too. And you're working on a book about bipolar.
And you're in it.
I'm in it?
Remember I interviewed you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that.
You are the only other person with bipolar in my book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I only say you're like, but yeah, you are. It's in the last round of edits. I have 76 things tonight I'm reviewing. The cover is done. Everything's done.
What's it called?
The Book of Bipolar According to Veronica.
Nice.
Which is a Bible reference.
Oh, okay.
Like when they start a reading in the Catholic Church, they're like the Book of Job according to blank.
Oh yeah.
And it's basically about how I think of Jesus.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited for when that comes out. Is it
You're
coming
like,
out this year? Yeah, I forgot about that.
It was so many years ago.
Yeah, you've been working on it for years.
I have. I interviewed like over 20 people. I lost 9 interviews.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like I recorded them on this device, the first 9.
Oh, okay.
You were the only person with bipolar 1 that I did not record on that device.
What?
Those were all recordings of people with bipolar 1. And
oh, wow.
Thank goodness we did ours. So you are the one that got saved.
Oh, okay.
Not that I saved you. This is not a Jesus thing.
Yeah. I remember I was in a certain mode, and like, I guess when I'm talking to you, it brings out a certain part of my personality, I guess. But I remember I was like cussing a lot in the interview.
No, so I don't know. No, I didn't put any of that in.
Okay. Well, I'm really excited to see that when it comes out.
Yes.
Do you have like a release date for it?
May is when we are going to release it, and I will absolutely just send you a copy because you're a part of it, and I really appreciate your insights with it. It was very valuable.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we're going to get to talk more about it today.
Yeah.
So it'll be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk, maybe start off like, well, what's been going on for you? Like, what have you been working on recently? Are you just been working on finishing up the book, or have you been playing shows and stuff? Like, what have you been up to?
Yes, and it's all music. I do lessons. I do performance. I work in memory care facilities doing music now, which kind of is like music therapy. It's not. I don't implement music therapy techniques because I'm not certified anymore. But it's performance there. So my whole life is music. I'm about to start doing a children's musical, like helping with that. It's always something new. Every month it's like, oh, this month looks this way with music, you know?
Oh, it's so cool. You get like a really unique approach to music, but it's not just you playing shows, but you get to like interact with people and help them with music in different ways.
Yes.
That's so cool.
And I started I helped start a choir.
Oh yeah?
And on the first day, 55 people showed up, I think, or 55 signed up, and about 50 showed up.
Wow.
So that's another thing that you know how it goes. Like we're always like creating and like,
yeah,
like as an artist, like you're always doing something new and different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah. You had like a choir in that. Didn't you have like a choir or something in the new song that Lead with Love or something? You had like a back.
You know what? That's actually only 4 people around a microphone. And how we did it was we all sang the same note and then stacked harmonies singing the same exact note. That's what kind of gave it that illusion of this huge choir.
Oh, okay.
So that's how we did that. But yeah.
That's cool.
Not a choir this time.
Yeah. Well, that song was like, it's really good. I love it so much. Like you wrote it really well, and like all the parts and how the emotions in it is really cool. It's like very, very like uplifting, happy feeling, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's also like really well produced.
Oh
Like
man. Yeah.
whoever you worked with, you gotta tell me a little bit about that, what that experience was like. Because
Yeah. So it
yeah,
was, I don't know, I think her name is Lauren Freehoff. She was on The Voice years ago. Long story short, she and I grew up in the same town, which is ridiculous because it's 900 people in the whole town. This super small town. Um, and I heard one of her songs that she released, and I was like, "Dang, who's this producer?" So that's how I found it for these next that song and Slow Burn, the other song I just released, are both under this producer. It's just
okay,
a different take on the sound for sure. It's a different take.
yeah, yeah, it sounds amazing. I did watch that. I guess you posted the producer like talking about him. Like about like, this is what I do. This is why I'm an awesome producer and everything. Then you had your lead with love and like, well, this is so cool.
Yeah, he's talented, and we had like I let him choose the players that I played with.
Uh,
So I was like, so he curated it in the way I wanted. I really wanted it to sound. I feel like my favorite influences are obviously all Black communities because most of
yeah.
our music is made originally by Black communities.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty much in every genre. Like they always like even like punk and metal. Like it's I think it was like Black people were the first ones doing everything with it's pretty
anything
crazy.
cool,
Yeah,
anything
anything
good,
cool.
anything awesome and good.
Yeah. So when that song, what did you play and contribute? Obviously to the vocals, and did you do the
On
guitar
Lead
and
with
the
Love,
keys or?
no, on Lead with Love, I didn't do guitar this time. I did piano though,
Oh, okay.
and on Slow Burn, just piano. I had somebody come in and do drums, somebody do bass, um, and guitar, and then horns. Those are the things that I had.
Okay.
But yeah,
Cool.
it took a year to get them released, or over a year.
Oh, so you recorded a while ago.
Yeah, it just you know how it goes. Like good things, some good things take time. I
Yeah.
realized I was actually just telling my friend I was like the seeds of my 20s are now finally showing up in my 40s, and it's so incredible.
Oh, yeah.
You
It's
never
a
get
really interesting thing too. I'm noticing that for myself. Like my 20s were like really fucking hard, and I had a lot of manic episodes during that time. I had like 5 or 6 manic episodes, and then
yeah.
once I hit 30, like something shifted,
Oh,
and I'm getting into like like I started my band Holy Tears
yes,
like
so
at the
good.
beginning of that, and yeah, and then I'm starting to get traction on different things and have clarity of vision of what I want to do. So that's some of the
Beautiful.
stuff that we're going to talk about later in this. I didn't mention, but I'm going to talk about your Michael chart, which is this channeled body of knowledge that talks about your soul path and evolution, which will be really cool.
Oh,
And then
thank you.
yeah, and then your Vedic Astrology chart, which also tells you about past life stuff and your karma for this life and the kind of the themes that you're going to be playing out. So we'll do that at the end.
Cool. I love
Um,
it.
yeah. So yeah, I just want to say if you guys don't know Veronica May, like check out the Lead with Love. Some of my other favorite songs are I love There Is Hope.
Oh yeah.
that one's like a classic. It's so good. Like I just find myself saying it even in context that is like just like for fun. Like I play with my partner, like Cora. We play Call of Duty sometimes, and we're like stuck in, we're like struggling, and we're like, oh, there is hope. We can get this.
That's so good.
Yeah.
You know a fun fact of that song?
What is it? Yeah.
Jason Mraz is on that song.
Oh wow.
Yes, the reason that is a wild fact is because my first manic episode, I kept telling my manager I was gonna play with Jason Mraz, and it was before I even knew he lived in San Diego. And then
Oh,
fast forward, and I freaking record with him like 5 years after my episode.
that's crazy. Yeah, I bet that's how it works. Is like once you're on the
I know.
path, like you have like a feeling like maybe I'll work with this person. I really
Yeah.
want to, and then it like shows up later. That's just like such a beautiful song, and
Thank you.
like you feel the emotion so strongly. Like I've cried a few different times listening to that just because it hits me so hard. Like you capture the emotion of it, and then like the way that you're really good at doing the like having space and like dynamics. Like
Thank
you're
you.
really good at doing like the soft parts and then and bring it into like the bigger parts, and like that's something I'd like to like learn more about how to do because my music is more like in your face the whole time, even though
You
it
need
has
that
an
too
emotional
sometimes.
quality. But yeah, that's just you're really good at doing that. Um, and another song that I really like is Rise.
Oh yeah, we're
That
gonna be
one
playing that one
that
soon.
one's so epic.
You know what
Yeah.
song you wouldn't, everybody passes it, is, I think, my favorite song in terms of like rock epicness of anything I've ever done is Scarecrow. Just,
Okay.
it does have a like 30-person choir on it.
Oh, wow.
But the choir doesn't hit for like 4 minutes. It's like super quiet for 4 minutes.
Okay. Which album is that on?
That's on, what is that one on? Between the Seams, I think. And it's on
Oh, okay.
Teaser. I think it's on Teaser as well. Both albums, but it's called Scarecrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, just we're just me and Cora are just like in love with your music. We've listened to it together, and she tells us like she told me like you and Veronica are like my favorite musicians in the whole world.
Oh, that'd be fun to play with you. Just guitar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I actually have another project that I'm working on the side that's just me doing vocals and like it's kind of got like a hip hop sort of metal side to it, like style. But yeah, I would love to collaborate with you on something. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, I need to get loud again. I think once my body started hurting, I was like, maybe I should play something a little more like gospel.
Uh,
I'm like,
yeah,
slow your body down. But I would love to play loud again.
yeah. No, you have like such like a powerful and commanding presence on stage too. Like it's just really cool to watch you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet.
So is there anything for the music that you have any goals going forward that you're planning to do with all that stuff?
Yes. My goal right now is to start a collective of humans. And I've already gotten some. Like, I'll shout out Lee Coulter as one. He was like, hey, I'll mix anything for free. We're trying to get a collective of humans who want to write songs in resistance
Mm.
because it's so expensive for any artist to produce anything. I can produce in my studio. This is like my little ISO box in here.
Yeah.
If you're wondering what this is, there's a microphone in here.
Okay.
See if you can see it.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah. But anyway, I've gotten like 15 people that are like, I'll play bass, I'll play drums, I'll play this. And if somebody has a song that like is gonna make your heart's difference, whether it's about hope or, you know, in protest or whatever it is that you want to write that's gonna say something to the people, then we want to do it for free. So that's kind of like my next vision.
Awesome.
And like this choir that we helped start, community choir, TEA, community, we have T together.
Oh, I see.
That was somebody else's dream, and I was like, sure, I'll hop on board. We want them to sing for these bigger shows, to have like a huge responsive voice, but also to give those people a chance to express themselves on stage too, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's like my
awesome.
next vision right now with music, but I'm always doing little things. Like,
Yeah.
there's always the big visions and then the little things I'm doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to like go in a little bit to like your history and like how you got established in music. I was also I know I was reading a little bit online that you were talking about what you were like into or attracted to originally. And this is going to factor into our charts that we look at later, but you also mentioned that you were like you wanted to be a nun. That was like
I was 17.
yeah, when you were 17?
I went to join the convent actually, and I bet the youngest nun there was probably 40, and I was 17, and I was like, I was writing this letter outside of the convent of the cloister, and I was like, I'm ready to join, blah blah blah. Turns out I was a lesbian.
Yeah. Was that not okay for your nuns?
Would have been great for me, just hanging out with a bunch of ladies.
That's true.
Older women.
Yeah,
Not bad. But my mom was like, go to college, get an education. And
yeah,
you know, I'm so glad because I was really dedicated. I liked the rosary. I went to church all the time.
yeah,
I liked, maybe because I like repetition. So it's like, it just
like
got me into
ritual.
this thing and ritual. Yeah, I really like all that stuff.
Yeah,
So what a turn of events when I came out of the closet. I was like, oh, you would have rather dedicated your life to God than to any man. So that was like a safe zone, being like, well, now nobody's gonna hound me for getting married.
yeah.
None.
Yeah.
Woo!
Wow. So
Yeah, I
interesting.
dodged that bullet.
Yeah. Yeah. So then you went into school and you instead around that
And
time
then,
and
yeah, when I was 21 is when I realized. I mean, my first crush on a woman, or I guess I should say a girl, is when I was 6 years old.
oh wow.
Like, that's my first recollection. Through high school, like, I always had crushes on girls, but I thought that we all felt that way. I would have never equated it in my small town to, like, "Veronica, maybe you're gay." I just had boyfriends, made sure I was homecoming queen, got out of the small town, and then I was like, it took a lot. It took a lot for me to realize, and afterwards, I was like, "Oh my gosh, hello."
yeah.
But when you're not allowed to express yourself, it's amazing what you can cover up, even it's from your own self.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense how I mean you were that you were attracted to like that kind of spiritual aspect of being a nun. But yeah, it is kind of limiting in that just in the traditional thing. It's hard to be fully yourself, especially like, being lesbian and stuff. Yeah, I can see how that's more difficult.
Yeah, and I always tell people that try to convince me otherwise. My whole family's Catholic still. And they're
Uh-huh.
like, "Ugh, come back to the faith." I'm like, "It's hard to believe in Jesus when you think you're Jesus." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you want me to do?"
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting perspective to have.
And it shuts the conversation down immediately. They're like,
Oh
"Okay,
yeah.
this is kind of unique."
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Although I haven't had a manic episode for almost a decade.
Oh wow.
I can't believe it. And I'm kinda like, I don't know if you do
Uh,
that sometimes. You're like, "Oh, when's the next one gonna hit?"
I've thought about that. It's been for me, it's been like 3 or 4 years now since my last one.
That's great.
Yeah,
Nice
so
to
I've
have a
been
breath more than 2 years.
yeah. It was like for in my 20s, it was like every year
I don't know
for a
how you did
while.
it.
I don't know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're
Um
not there now. And I'm glad I'm not there now too. I mean, who knows? Like, maybe I'll have an episode next year and then I'll have like 7. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
How
know.
many have you had?
I've only had I've only gotten all the way to mania and psychosis. Well, this isn't true. I've only been hospitalized 3 times.
Okay.
I've probably stopped at least 50 in my entire career of having bipolar, being like, "Oh, I'm on oh shit, shit, shit."
You mean like feeling like a manic kind of feeling or
Being
something?
like, "Okay, I know I'm not Jesus, but I really feel like I kind of am Jesus." Like, kind of, that
Oh,
world where you're like, "Ooh, am I gonna go on the edge or am I gonna come back?"
yeah.
Like, have you been able to stop them ever? Being like, "Oh, I see it coming."
It hits me so fast and then
Those
my
3
mind
did.
is just altered in
Yep.
like immediately and then I don't even really realize that I'm manic.
I
And
hate that. Well, it does get to that point. I always say it's like dementia. It's like the first few stages of dementia, you're like, "Oh, I know I have dementia, but I can't stop it."
yeah.
And then stage 3, you're like, you're totally gone. Stage 4,
Yeah.
totally gone. Yeah, so
Yeah.
those 3 episodes were that for me, where I was like,
Okay.
"Oh, there was no way I could turn back from it."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it was your first one was like you were 25, was that right? Was the
5
first
was the
one?
first. 25, 28, 33.
What was that first experience like?
People afterwards were like people were talking and they thought I was doing coke,
Okay.
and I'd never done drugs, like,
Yeah.
and, so people were kind of, like, wondering what was going on, but because I had never experienced it, I just kinda went with it. Like, I didn't know what to identify as incorrect. Like, I just started believing things, and then that was my new reality.
Yeah.
That moment of being like, "Oh my gosh, I'm God." You know and I know you've
Yeah.
had the realizations of, like, I'm fill in the blank, where you're like, it's me."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then you live that after that,
Yeah.
like, for as long as you need to. And I every time I have a new character that, like, comes along for the ride, but always Jesus and Michael Jackson. Those are always the 2
Interesting.
that I
Yeah.
always hang
The
on to.
spiritual and the musical together.
I guess.
Yeah, they're powerful archetypes.
And that's why, like, anybody with that mind, like, they grab onto
Yeah.
something grandiose.
Yeah, well, the thing is with it, it's like, I mean, obviously, like, this bipolar manic experience is like, you need, like, when you have bipolar 1 and have these really intense manic episodes, you do need support for people to help you through it. And certain, you need something in place that is going to
Yes.
help you, because you it puts you in this state that where your mind is so dreamy and like visionary, but you're connecting on like it's like you're dreaming while you're awake, but then you're God in the dream,
Yeah.
right? It's like it's fucking nuts. It's crazy. But
It's
yeah, you
wild.
need that. You need to be like, you need somebody to ground you during that time, because your mind goes, your intuition leads you in crazy places, like magical things happen.
Yep.
I think
And
your
they really
energy affects
do.
everything.
Like, I don't know if you agree with this, but there are times I look back, I'm like, if I hadn't been manic, somebody would have deemed that as like magical, miraculous. Some of these things that happen while I'm manic. But
Yeah.
then things get distorted. It's like you get to a
Yeah.
point where it's like, oh, now the milk has been spoiled.
Oh yeah.
But there is that hypomania area where you're like,
Yeah.
everything does legitimately feel magical.
Yeah. What are some of the magical experiences you've had during mania?
One in particular that I always think of is I should not have been practicing. I was in music therapy. I was a music therapist. This was my first episode, so I had no idea that I even had bipolar.
Uh-huh.
And I was working with a nonverbal kiddo who had autism. And I was for months I'd been trying to get her to communicate with me in the ways that she could. And I just felt really intuitive in that session, and her mom was watching from the window. And she was like speaking for the first times in the session, like uttering things, and mom afterwards was bawling. So
Uh-huh.
anyway, I drew a picture during the session. I drew 2 circles, a blue one and a red one. And I was like, this is me and this is you. And there was this overlap. I was like, and here we're together in music. And she had said something in that moment. So anyway, we go out of the session and I'm telling mom kind of what we did. And this kid is trying to hand me this book that's from in the waiting room. And I was like, I'll get that soon. I just want to tell her kind of how well you did today and what you did today. And so I forgot about the book. She handed it to me and they left. I'd never seen the book. And I opened the book to a page of what I had just drawn. It was this
Oh.
exact image.
Yeah.
And I sat there in disbelief. I was like, I have never picked this book up.
Yeah.
And I drew that exact image for her, and she was trying to communicate it back to me. So just
Yeah.
little things like that where you're like, what? How did
Yeah.
how did I do that? Kind of that question of like, how did I do that?
Yeah.
Where you reach out to somebody and they're like, I was just thinking about you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, of course. Yeah, that's happened 6 times today.
Yeah. Yeah. It does happen when you're manic, like it
Yes,
goes up. Yeah.
it goes up.
It's the synchronicities,
Yeah.
like the power of synchronicity. I think, like, my theory is that when we're manic, our primal vital energy is much more palpable and intense. And like, especially I think how it goes through the solar plexus. This is like the power center, And I think that sends out like frequencies or a signal to the world of the universe, and it just like amplifies any kind of ability to have meaningful coincidences, synchronicities, and those just happen. Like, for me, I have really interesting interactions with people that happen, like just passing them on the street or something. Like, there's just all this magical stuff that happens.
Me too.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, there's a lot more that needs to be like said about this bipolar experience, because
Mhm.
I've been dealing with this for a while too, since like my first one was when I was 14, 15.
Woo!
Yeah, so
Same amount of time then.
it's been like 20 years, you
It's
know.
been not even 20 years for me. It's been 17 years for me. So you've been
Yeah.
dealing with it longer than I have.
Which year was it for you, the first one?
What, 2008?
Okay, yeah, mine was 2006.
Okay, yeah.
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 Yeah, so but like, I've had to grow up and depend on like my mom and her perspective and how she needs to approach it, and she knows that like on my dad's side there's a lot of mental illness or whatever. And so she was really wary about that. And she noticed when I was like 15 that I was acting different, and she was really worried. But I had to go through the whole being hospitalized at 15 and being paranoid in the hospital. They were chasing me with a needle.
Me
like
too. Don't they chase all of us with a? It seems
what the fuck? It's so fucked up.
They do that. They do that to everybody.
Why did they do that? Like, it's like I'm fucking scared as shit right now, and you're chasing me down. Like, oh man,
in your butt? Is that where it went?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They wanted to put it in my butt, and then the guy came up to me. Like, I was like screaming, running around the floor, and he came up to me. I actually hit him.
Oh man,
I was so scared.
Of course you were. Do you know what I did?
What'd you do?
Well, I thought I was Jesus at the time.
Okay.
And I also thought that the only way you could hear me without dying was if I sang.
Oh.
Plot twist.
Yeah.
So anyway, they grabbed me by the arms and legs, and I went limp like Jesus would as a lamb to slaughter. Like I know so much about the Bible, so it fed into my delusions in these really spicy ways.
Mm-hmm.
So they like take me back to like lay me down, and then they put this in my butt, and I went, turn the other cheek.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
I was being serious.
A Jesus reference about your ass.
Turn the other cheek. I'll never turn the correct cheek again.
That's so good.
I know. Yeah, we all got to laugh about that. I remember as they were restraining me, they all started laughing. It was hilarious. I started laughing.
Oh wow, that's cool that you were able to.
For a minute, I was like, "Oh, that was funny," and then I went back.
But that was like they gave you that to like sedate you and put you down kind of in a way, almost like knock you out, right?
It was probably Abilify or Haldol. That's usually what it is.
Oh yeah, right.
Or lithium. I don't know what it was that time, but I don't. Yeah, that's very common. And sometimes I wonder if in hospitals they really keep us so sedated so that they can kind of control us easier, because there's not enough of them, and there's a lot of us that are just losing our minds.
Yeah.
Like, do they just have to sedate us so much?
They can't do anything about it. Like, they don't know. Yeah.
And that's sad. But I've often wondered that. I'm like, are some of these people so sedated like me? Because now I can't even walk to my room because I'm so tired. Like, I wonder.
Yeah.
I bet you have some stories too. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, that's why I wrote this book. I was like, nobody's gonna believe this.
Yeah.
I
know it is really nuts. But the biggest one for me, like I've had a lot of crazy experiences, but I had like a spiritual awakening experience, like a deep surrender experience, and I was in the middle of playing guitar with my friends. In LA, I was up in LA at this time, and we were like in a rehearsal space. And I realized like I was doing all this efforting in my picking, and like there's this tension in my body, and then I realized like I can just like fully let go, like just totally surrender. And when I did that, I all of a sudden like I was in the process of taking off my clothes, and then I peed on the floor in the rehearsal space, and then I collapsed on the floor, and I thought I died, like I was in the afterlife or something, and I was like screaming, like intermittently screaming because it's so intense. And then I ran outside naked, and the ambulance and the cop cars were all there, and they were coming up to get me. After having that experience, I was feeling, I was just spontaneously in movement. It didn't feel like I was doing it. All of it was just coming out of me. So my body ran out. It wasn't a conscious choice, but that's what I was doing. And then I climbed underneath this truck. And then they were pulling me out from underneath the truck, and my face got scraped against the cement, and so I had like like blood coming off my face and stuff. Yeah. And they took me into the ambulance and brought me to the hospital. That was like my big awakening experience in this deep surrender. And then since then, I've actually maintained this feeling that all my actions spontaneously arise out of the moment, and I don't have that tension and control that was there in place before. So something happened, but I think this is really common when people have like manic or bipolar experiences. that it's actually really tied to spiritual awakening. And when you go through that, like it's gonna throw you into a crazy state, you know.
And it
So
does. Yeah, it does. I've done
yeah,
the same things, like peeing my pants. Letting
yeah,
go is like it's always this phrase that comes back when I'm manic. I'm like, you
yeah,
gotta let go, and then I'm like, oh, that means pee my pants too. Like, let go of everything.
yeah, yeah. It's true.
Oh man, I got naked once too. I hate being naked in public. I would never.
Yeah, it's not my
Oh,
moral
it's
choice, but
mortifying.
yeah. So I was gonna ask you, are you like, how are you dealing with? Are you like on meds right now,
Yeah.
or yeah? Are you cool with sharing which ones
Yeah,
you're?
of course.
Yeah.
Vraylar. Have you heard of
Okay.
Vraylar?
No, I haven't heard of that one. I haven't been
I've
on
been
that
on it
one
for
yet.
8 years now, maybe. I
Okay.
and it's still a pretty low dose, and then
Okay.
lamotrigine. So,
Oh, I was on that for a little bit.
yeah, they're calling them
Yeah.
dopamine blockers now, not antipsychotics, but
Oh yeah.
so I have that dopamine blocker, and then it's like a compressor, kind of.
hmm
What about you?
I'm on Depakote and Zyprexa.
Oh, yeah, I've been on those. Zyprexa stopped working for me.
Oh yeah.
That's how it goes, right? You're like, "Yeah, it worked for a while, and now I'm on this."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've over the last 5 years, I've become like, because I've been on for like 5 years now, those meds. I have become more aware of my symptoms, and I didn't really realize it. It sucks because it like you don't notice it, and like kind of fade into it, and then you realize something's left you, or something's affecting you in a certain way. You don't realize it. One of the things was the like excessive weight gain. You might notice I'm bigger now than I used to be. I gained like 160 pounds the last 5 years. You
Wow.
know, so it's been really hard on that. Libido just like killed. Like it's like really hard to access that. Like I just
Yep,
I don't feel it. You know.
yep,
And I think that there is a like a suppression of anger energy where I don't have as much access to that as I could, stuff like
yes.
that. And then like the low dopamine like makes me want to like crave like stimulation of different kinds. So I was like smoking cigarettes and or like vaping and stuff a lot like throughout the day, like because it was giving me some kind of stimulation that because I was like low dopamine, so it's like it was like trying to deal with that in response somehow. So like I was dealing with all that. So like I'm like actively trying to wean off the stuff actually, and go
It's
I
not
go
easy.
to, and I'm looking for a psychiatrist that can help me. My current one is like not supportive of it at all. He was like, you can't meditate your way out of a bipolar diagnosis, and so your plan is you're just going to go off your meds and get to the hospital and get panic and go to the hospital. It's like it's just,
Man,
I'm looking for a new one now. But
that's good.
yeah,
I had a therapist for 15 years, and this psychiatrist at the time I had for 9 years, and I asked both of them, I was like, "Do you think I'll ever be able to get off meds?"
yeah,
And they were both like, "No." So I just and I'm if I were on like 4 or 5 things, I'd be like, "I'm not doing this anymore."
yeah.
But my symptoms aren't too my
Too
symptoms aren't too
crazy.
bad. Mine are like the shakes and nausea.
Oh, okay.
So those are my 2 big ones. So I'm like, "All right." And my liver is okay. Like, apparently my liver could be affected by Vraylar, but I'm like,
Yeah, I've got some liver stuff going on
"Do
too
you?"
with that. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, it's affecting that. So I
that's
mean,
hard. You're like,
yeah,
maybe like adaptogens or like for some people, and I say that in my book, I'm like, not every person with bipolar 1 has to be on medications.
yeah,
I do. Like,
uh-huh.
I truly feel that way. Like, I've definitely skipped doses and been like, "Oh, who is
Mhm.
this?"
Yeah,
I'm not willing to give it
to
the old
risk it.
college try.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Maybe that's my fear, I don't know.
yeah. Well, the big thing that I'm noticing, and kind of how I've been contextualizing bipolar now for me, is I know I had a big block in my solar plexus.
Mhm.
Like it was all plugged up energetically, and that affected my self-assertion and my confidence. I was on such a huge level of ability to assert myself, and I was really passive for a long time. And I
Mhm.
think I started working on my second episode. I was starting to work on opening that, and it sent me into a mania. And the kind of the analogy I give for this is like, it's like our vital primal energy is in our bodies, and it's trying to circulate and find movement, natural movement through our bodies, right? But it's kind of like having a hose that has kinks in it. So like the water's trying to flow through, but it doesn't have the right movement through.
Yeah.
And so that's like, it's like you could say the energy is kind of suppressed into the unconscious because it doesn't have access like to move for movement in the conscious use. So I don't know if you have a relation to that kind of experience with the solar plexus at all, but that was definitely my experience, and I know now I'm more grounded, like in my body, my energy feels more open, and it feels like it has like movement, like ability to move through me. So if I feel like I'm gonna get hit by like a manic episode with a lot of energy, I feel a lot more confident that I'll be in a different state now because
Cool.
I was able to open up that stuff, and like there's movement there, and it's flowing, and so I think that'll put me in a different state. But
maybe I've never thought about that. My third episode,
Yeah.
I was like, my best friend, who I always think is John the Baptist when I'm manic, Christine. She was like, I've never seen you so stable, but I was doing transcendental meditation, and I think that's what made me go.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I have no idea. I feel like, sadly, although it doesn't feel that sad to me, I have made myself smaller, and I think that is to the success of not having a manic episode for almost a decade. And that doesn't feel great. Like, I want to be bigger.
Yeah.
But when I get bigger, everything gets bigger. And then so I actually thought that about 6 months ago. I was like, what is to the success of this? And I think it's that I don't risk as much as I used to.
Oh yeah.
Which is not a good thing.
You feel like risking is good?
I think some risks are important.
Yeah.
Not like big risks, like I'm not gonna wear a seatbelt and I'm gonna close my eyes while I drive, but the risks of being like, take that job, take that opportunity. It is a little bit above what you can do, but I bet if you reach far enough, I just don't take those types of risks anymore.
Right. Yeah. So I was going to ask you, how do you approach when you do go on manic episodes? Like, what is your support network like? What do you have in place to help you with that?
I should share with you my plan.
Yeah. What's your plan?
So it's in my book. It's a QR code in my book, and it's all written out. It's a 2-page thing that anybody can fill out. And so I just like left blank spaces where you put obvious things like what meds you're on, where you want to go to the hospital, backup hospital, and then last resort hospital.
Okay.
And then it breaks it down into like phases, like what I look like when I'm manic in phase 1.
Yeah.
What things I talk about, and then what things you should say to me to calm me down.
Okay.
Like for me, one thing to say that really helped. Anytime I end up going to the ICU, but they take you to the ER first, and then they shoot you with Haldol, and then they cart you off. So I don't know. It's just important to know like phrases. And my friend was like, Veronica, they're not going to do surgery on you with no anesthesia. I always think that.
Oh yeah.
And she said that, and I was like, because she didn't know I was actually experiencing that, being like, oh gosh, they're coming soon. Because she remembered in the plan, it says, when I go to the ER, I always think. So, having those things in place, being like, use these phrases. What's amazing and really important, I think, to know if you're trying to get somebody in psychosis to the hospital, to play into their delusions is very effective. If I'm Jesus, being like, there are people to be saved at Scripps Mercy Hospital. Like, come with us, save them. And then you get them to the hospital very easily.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like talking to somebody with dementia. You wouldn't be like, no, remember you live here. You live here at the hospital. You don't live at home anymore. You would never do that because they would get upset. You'd be like, oh, actually, we're going home soon. Why don't you sit here for a minute and I'll come get you?
Yeah, it's true. You kind of have this like kid-like perspective almost, like sometimes.
Yes.
And it does really help. I've noticed like past partners and stuff doing something like that, for me too.
Yes, you have to play to the character.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I'm a character that's nice. Usually.
Yeah.
Maybe if I have a next episode, who knows? I could be anybody. Like, I don't know who I'm going to be.
Yeah.
But you are who you think you are. Like, you act like them. I
Yeah.
remember I got punched in the face at one of the hospitals from another patient. And I thought I was God. And I told her that she had a nice right hook. Had I been myself, I would have been like, ow!
Nice right hook.
But you play, you really do believe all the way in. You're all the way in.
Yeah.
When you're
It's
totally
true.
psychotic, there is nothing to convince you otherwise.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I've actually had like kind of a theory about this on the soul level, and we'll get into this when we get into the charts and stuff. But I think that people who experience, especially bipolar 1, there's some kind of connection to like almost like a cultivated primal energy, or knowing, like exploring that domain and being able to hold on to a lot of primal energy in your body. And I think that can be cultivated by like certain souls and having a certain orientation. And so that could be, it's actually like a power, but it's
Yes,
just
it
like,
is.
it's totally a power. It's like you're actually really powerful, but it's just in our current society and how things are set up, it's not oriented in a way that would understand that perspective,
No, not even in the least. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because I remember interviewing you and everybody else. I was like, you do that too? Like, you see the color purple too?
Yeah.
Like, why do we? But people are like,
Yeah.
let's take them to the hospital and get them tired and shut them up while they're in this phase.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of value in like what we're experiencing in some of that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
definitely. Yeah. So yeah, I think we could start transitioning soon into the
Yeah.
charts. But is there anything else you want to say? Um, just like to
Yeah.
conclude all this, or like
Yeah.
if you want to share like what your social media links are, or your
Sure.
website or something, if you want to say any of that before we get into the charts.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to say is that like you and I think, thank you for doing this. I think the more we talk about this, the less scary it becomes for other people. And I actually, one thing I would be interested to know about you, like I have friends on the street that just like live on the street that experience psychosis. And when I see them in psychosis, like one of my friends was talking to himself walking in the middle of the street. And I was like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And he snapped
Yeah.
out of it but I'm like, because I feel like because I've experienced mania and I've been surrounded by people in psychosis, I'm not scared of it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you would be somebody to do the same thing. If you saw somebody in the middle of the street, you'd be like, we got to go help. Is that the case for you? Like, if it's a crisis, do you feel like you're one to be like, hey, or do you feel scared of it?
I'm not scared of it. No.
Yeah, I'm not.
But what I do notice, especially when I'm manic, um, there's some special connection with homeless people that always happens.
Yep.
Like they get really attracted to me. Like
Yep.
I do these things called, like, I guess we could call TAZs. It means it stands for Temporal Autonomous Zone, which is kind of like where you're just exploring. Like you don't have any agenda. You're going out in public. You're doing something. You're walking around, and it kind of frees you up and allows you to get into these cool like synchronicities and interesting moments. But I walked up to this one guy like an alley, and he's like, "Do I know you?" And then we started walking together. He's like, and he felt really comfortable with me like that. There was one guy, I was walking around. I wasn't smoking a cigarette, but I had cigarettes in my pocket, and he knew, like he just sensed it. He like ran over to me. Can I have a cigarette? I'm like, how did you know I had that? I've had lots of weird things, lots of weird experiences like that. One time I was in LA, in Las Vegas, like on the border of Las Vegas, close to there. I was at this hotel, and I was surrounded by, I was talking with these people in Spanish. For some reason, I was more confident with my Spanish speaking ability.
Yeah, if you're hypomanic, you're like, I can do anything.
Yeah. But like, I was like hanging out with these guys, and then there's like 30 people that started surrounding me in a circle, and I was in the middle, and they gave me like a bottle of like tequila, and I just started chugging it. Like
I swear, people with bipolar 1 are like most likely to start a cult.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just true. Like, you're probably somebody who, I don't know if this is true, but you get into a lift and they're like, "Hey, how are you?" And you're like, "Good, how are you?" And they're like, "Well, my son just got shot." And you're like, "Oh, okay, we're doing this. We're doing trauma stuff." Like, people want to share. Strangers share with me, and I love it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, whoa, okay, we're doing this. We're okay, I'm in. Let's go." Like, my ride's
Yeah.
15 minutes. We're gonna talk about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, people do approach me a lot.
Yeah. It's super interesting. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So is there any like you want to say your social media and
Oh,
stuff? Like so
sure.
people are, yeah.
Basically, Veronica May, which is May. Just
Hmm.
Google Veronica May, you'll find me. Veronica May YouTube, veronicamay.com, Veronica May
Yeah.
Music Instagram. Just Veronica May, you'll find all my stuff.
Yeah, that's true. You got it all set up. Just searching your name will get you there, huh?
Oh, I have the cringiest thing I've ever done. I'll share that link with
Okay, cool.
you. It's called Miss Veronica's Emotion Dances. You're welcome in advance.
Miss Veronica, what is it? I want to put it up on my browser just so I have it. What is it?
Miss Veronica. You'll probably find it with Miss Veronica, honestly. Miss Veronica's Emotion Dances.
Oh, it's a YouTube video?
They are dances to help people who have a hard time understanding emotions.
Oh, is it
But
like
they are
you have a bunch of
cringy.
videos on that?
Yes, and they are
Oh,
cringy, and I'm still glad I did it because I love my boss at the time, but she was like, "We're gonna do these videos." I was like, "Sure." I show up at the place thinking it's gonna be her with, like, her phone,
yeah.
and it's like a team of people, and I was like, "Oh, I am neither an actor or a dancer, and today I'm doing both."
Oh man,
It's
I'm
so
so
cringy.
excited to watch those.
You're gonna just yeah, when you have time, just but, like, know that the cringe will be real.
Okay, okay. I'm so I'm
Yeah,
so
you're gonna
excited
be
for
excited.
that. Awesome. Well, I think this is a pretty cool discussion.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing to wrap everything up, that we just continue to talk about it like it's a normal thing to talk about.
yeah, definitely. I bet there's so many people that just don't have the right support because our Western medicine system is not.
Ugh,
They're not looking at they're not supporting people in the way they need to be supported. You
no.
know. So yeah, it's really important. It's something really important to me too, and
Yes,
I want to help people with bipolar and stuff like that down the line, with a
beautiful.
lot of stuff. So yeah,
Yes, yes, yes.
awesome. Well, thanks for this discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into your charts now.
Okay,
If you're ready for
I
that.
looked at it and I mean, I don't know much about what it is, but I looked
Yeah, I'll explain it all to you, so you get what's going on.
okay.
Let me share my screen. Let me get the tab. Here we go. Is it showing on the screen right now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So,
Oh, wait, where'd you go?
oh, am I gone?
No, it was me. Okay, I'm ready.
It's showing though, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so this chart, I built this chart after getting the channel chart from Shepard Hoodwin. He's the one who does the channeling of these things. So this information has to be channeled to get all this stuff. So somebody will like tune into your soul and figure out what your kind of your what your essence, your soul is, how it's oriented, and also what characteristics you take on for this life. So there's on this chart, there's an essence side. That's the stuff that stays the same for your whole reincarnation cycle. And then the stuff under overleaves on the right is all stuff for this life that you take on. Like it's kind of
Oh,
like
cool.
overlays your personality and kind of configures you for this life in terms of what you're focusing on.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'll get into your essence stuff first. So the main thing in the system is the roles. And yours is priest. So the roles are they're like soul types, and so you have the same soul type for your whole reincarnation cycle. We go to different planets, and you say, I'm going to go on this planet. I'm gonna have experiences on this planet through a certain like sentient life form, and I'm going to choose one of these 7 roles. There's 7 different ones. Yours is priest, and priest is it's like the exalted inspiration role. So what that means is you deal more with groups. That's the exalted cardinal aspect. you're more oriented towards dealing with groups, and inspiration means that you're more tuned into the inner side of our experience, really tied to the emotions especially.
Mm-hmm.
And and so what the priests focus on is they need to they seek the higher good or the higher ideal. So they have this very inspirational quality. That other priests I like Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi. I think Jesus has some secondary priests, but he's actually primarily a king. Um, but there's some musicians also that are priests, like Bruce Springsteen's a priest. Um, and a lot of people they're usually really attracted to religion or spirituality in some way,
Mm-hmm.
and they like politics a lot too, because they want to motivate the people and heal the people and lead them to their deepest level of spiritual growth.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like your signature energy that you come in, that you approach things with. It has this intense, passionate energy to it. Um, so that will be your main influence, and that could explain why you were attracted to being a nun
Yeah.
when you were younger.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's also a priest, and he wanted to be a preacher or a priest, like a literal priest. So it just makes sense. And my dad was a priest too, so he was really attracted to Christianity and really was really strong in his beliefs with that kind of stuff. So that it kind of explains your interest in this kind of religious background and lens that you look at things through.
Yes.
So yeah, that's your main soul type there. And then we have something called an essence twin, which is a soul that we bond with for our whole reincarnational cycle, and their energy we're really attracted to. So you'll be really attracted to warriors because your essence twin is a warrior. So anybody who has warrior energy, they're really focused on production and protection, stuff like that. But they're very grounded and solid. They like working through obstacles. They like seeking challenges. It's kind of this masculine driving energy, like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the archetype of the warrior. So yours is discarnate, which means your essence twin is not incarnate right now. They're on the higher plane, so they're like on the astral plane. And what that means is that you get a boost of warrior energy.
Hmm.
So you're gonna have these warrior qualities. It's like their energy is riding your shoulders. So you're gonna have some of this warrior characteristics going on. And then also you have your cadence position. This is like a part of where you are in your soul family that gives you kind of more secondary characteristics of different roles. And so you have also warrior there. So they call this honorary warrior when your essence twin and your cadence position are the same,
Hmm.
and what is different from your main role. So it's like you're a priest slash warrior basically on a soul level. So you have that priest inspirational, wanting to move people to the higher good thing, and then you have like this grounded, like productive, working through obstacles, seeking challenges kind of energy.
Hmm.
So that's like some of the main things. And then after that, you have artisan and your cadence. So artisan is the creative one. They're really good with working with their hands. They're really sensitive. They're very creative. They're going to be attracted to the arts or crafts or different things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So that really explains a lot in terms of your attraction to music there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have in the same position on my chart, I have artisan. My role is scholar though, which makes sense for me, like studying stuff in depth a lot, and it's how I got into these systems and studied them so much is because I'm a scholar. But yeah, so that's some of your essence stuff. There's also a soul that we bond with called the task companion that helps us with our the more externally oriented side of things. The essence twin is more kind of like the soul inner focus kind of bond that they help you with, like your kind of spiritual growth. But the task companion helps you with your tasks, the things you're doing out in the world. And so your task companion is also discarnate, and it's a sage. And sages are the communicators.
Hmm.
They're on the expression axis with the artisans. They're focused on expression, but they're more dealing with addressing groups and like communicating ideas, insights, wisdom, stuff like that. So that's going to have an influence in how you interact and do things in the outer world.
Hmm.
Yeah. So this next thing right here is cadre and entity. So cadre is like a bigger group of souls. These are basically soul families. So the cadre is a bigger group that has 7 entities in it, and each entity has 1,000 souls in it. So they're like the entity is your soul family, and then the cadre is like your greater soul family. So yours is 4-1, and so I'm actually in the same cadre as you, the 4. So we have like a kind of like a soul bond kind of thing going on here
Yes.
with that, which is really cool. I'm in 4-7, so I'm in the same cadre, but the entity is the 7th one. Yours is the first one. The first one aligns with the server energy. Servers are the ones that are more like want to take care of people, want to nurture people. They're like helpers, and they're focused on service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's more of the orientation that your whole entity, your soul family has as a focus. Mine's 7, which is more like the king. So we kind of bring the finalized energy to things and kind of clean up things that need to be attended to, and that's kind of what mine is about. But yours is the first one, so it's the one that comes out first and like paves the way for everybody in the whole cadre, basically. So actually, my sister is in your exact entity. She's in 4-1.
Wow.
So you have like a close, like you're part of our club,
Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool. There's also the guitarist of the band that my dad was in. He's also in 4-1, and there's some other drummer with one of this bands I really like, Jerome's Dream, who's also in 4-1. So I'm familiar with the 4-1s, So it's pretty cool to see that we have that, and I feel this connection to you, like I feel like there's something feels very familiar, and like we're part of the same club and stuff.
Yes.
And there's some other stuff in here that I can talk about that too. So your orientation, so there's 3 different orientations. It's truth, love, or beauty. And so those are the 3 different dimensions where we can be focused on things. The truth is the intellect, the highest manifestation of the intellect. Love is the highest of emotions, and beauty is of the physical, energetic domain. So you're through all your lives on Earth, you're really focused on the love dimension, the emotions, really exploring the emotions, getting to know the emotions, seeing things through, and processing things through the lens of emotions. That's the big thing there. And then your male energy, female energy ratio, you actually have high male energy. It's 81%, and then your female energy is 19%. What this basically means is when you have high male energy, you're going to be really kind of more single point focus with your awareness and how you move. You're going to be going in one direction through things, like through obstacles, through different things you're doing, really single pointed, going in one direction. That's kind of the male energy, what that's like. Female energy kind of creates more of an environment, is more focused on being, and is sort of more chaotic, but it can go in many different directions at once. But yours is more single point focused in one direction. And one other thing about that is it also indicates kind of the balance of what you're going to be attracted to body-wise, what you're going to typically want to have as a body. And so you're probably going to have male bodies more often than female. And it also could explain the lesbian orientation too, because that's going to happen if you have high male energy and you're in a female body. You'll just be attracted to the female to balance out, your natural orientation to things.
Yep, that makes sense, and that's true.
Yeah, so that's really cool to see. Your frequency is in the middle. It goes from 0 to 100 or 1 to 100. Yours is 46. Mine's in the middle too. So you're kind of more fluid. Like energy is not like super solid and grounded and slow, but it's not airy and moving quick through things. You're kind of more balanced with that. It's more typical. Cool. And then your previous cycles, that means how many planets you lived on in the course of your being a sentient soul. So you were on 10 planets, and you went through this whole process of incarnating on planets in different sentient forms. You've done this 10 times before you came to Earth, and so now you're on your 11th one. So you've been on 10 different planets as different roles. So all this stuff would be different. Even your essence stuff would be different on these different planets in the past. So now, so you're on your 11th one right now. I actually have 10 too.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting thing to look at. So this stuff down here at the bottom is the global job and community responsibilities. The global job is kind of the main job that you take overall, but you're oriented to doing on the planet. And yours is salvage or salvation. And it's a double priest one. So that really fits with you being a priest role. It kind of reinforces that same energy. I actually have the exact same global job. There's like 49 different ones.
Wow.
And we have the same one.
Oh.
So it's pretty cool. So we have a similar orientation. And so basically what this global job is about is wanting to save the planet or save people, like lead them towards their spiritual growth. It's kind of like playing a spiritual counselor role as a base kind of understanding, but there's many ways it can manifest. Some people will get into music as a possibility, as a way to engage with that energy and wanting to, through the music, heal people or whatever you do, you know? So you'll be really attracted to like big causes or really helping people in this priest oriented kind of way. So that reinforces the priest more. And then your community responsibility is like what role you play in the communities that you're involved in. And yours is called prudence, and that's a mix of priest and warrior energy. So prudence is actually the same community responsibility that my partner Cora has. And that one is about basically, because it's a priest and warrior mix, it has that kind of inspirational wanting to move people towards their highest good, towards their spiritual growth, but you do it in a warrior kind of focused way. What that means is you'll want to help people find a way to like how they can move forward in touch with their spiritual selves, but in a grounded, practical way, like with their careers potentially, how they're moving out in the world, what they're doing. So you'll be really attracted to like, how can I help people get established in their business or whatever they're doing in their career or whatever their big projects are. You can really help people with that.
Cool.
So that's like a big thing there. So yeah, that's all the stuff in your essence. So all that stuff that I just said will be the same for all your lives on Earth. That's going to be the same. So yeah, it's a mix of different stuff. You know, you got the priest, you got some warrior, artisan, a little bit of sage. You got this love, emotion, orientation, high male energy, salvage, salvation, and prudence.
It's interesting the whole like salvation part and like how that kind of gets more revealed when I'm manic. Some of these things.
Oh yeah,
like my true self in some ways. Although I feel like I feel maybe even in the past like 5 or 6 years that I've finally like unfolded and been like, this is exactly who I feel like I am right now. Like,
yeah, I feel like the manic episodes actually reveal more like of who we are on a deeper level, like on a soul level, and that energy is coming through and being channeled, you know. One of my theories is like the warriors and kings, which are the more grounded, solid energies that are more action oriented. They have a lot more primal energy. So you could be having a lot more primal energy that's manifesting as a manic episode because you have this double warrior thing going on. And then the priest also brings more of this kind of like, there's a sensitivity to the higher planes at being a priest. You like your high frequency is what they call it. So you'll be really in touch with like visions and fantasy, but like seeing things in your third eye, like imagining things and seeing things. That'll be really strong as being a priest.
Well, and like this idea of priest and like salvation, there's this like idea of, I don't know if this is the same for you, but this idea of like sacrificing self. But when it becomes delusional, it's like end my life to save the world. Like that's a very common.
Yeah.
I don't know if that comes up for you.
I can see that, but the salvation, because we have that in common.
Yep.
I think that's really, it is all about saving the world. You know, that's what the salvage part of that means. Like things that are broken that need to be healed. You want to heal that.
Yeah.
So that's really big. Yeah. So that's all the stuff in your essence.
Cool.
And then their overleaves are the characteristics you take on for this life. So I'll go into that real quick. First is the soul age. So basically, there's different stages that we go through in our development as we incarnate. So we're learning different lessons as we progress through our lives, like different lives that we have. And so you're at the old soul stage, which is the final stage of the reincarnation cycle.
Hmm.
So you're more, you've already had a lot of experience in terms of all the lives you've had, and you're more stepping back and getting more detached from the intensity of the experiences. So you're more focused on like reflecting and kind of like looking at things through the intellectual understanding, like the context of everything, how everything makes sense, like making sense of everything. But you're also more like detached and letting people be as they are. Like let them, like, you can go do your thing over there. I'm going to do my thing right here. You go live your life however you want. And that's kind of the perspective that the old soul age takes on. You're level 3 out of 7, so that stage is you're really established in the old soul age values at this point, but you're not, you might not be so confident in expressing it so much on the outer, like in an outer external extroverted kind of way. It's kind of more internal and reflective, like turned inwards during this stage. I'm mature level 3, which is the stage before. And so I have the kind of introverted aspect to it. But the mature soul age was for you when you were in the mature soul age. That was more of the intensity of the relationships, getting in touch with yourself on a deep level, on a deep emotional level, and that's where a lot of like difficult things happen emotionally and like psychically and different things. There could be things like drug addictions or suicide or bipolar also for that. But yeah, you're still experiencing the bipolar, so it doesn't always mean that it's only for the mature soul age. But that stage was more heavily in the relationships and the intensity of the experience, and it goes really deep. Yours is more stepping back and looking, and goes more high and more, I mean, backwards, seeing the whole context of everything. So that's more of the focus right now. So the goal for this life, there's 7 different goals, and yours is called discrimination, and that's more kind of like, you could think of it as like discernment. It's another way to look at it. Overall, it's the lesson is to learn how to say no. So
That's
basically,
funny.
yeah.
I had 3 years ago, that was my resolution for the entire year. That was the one resolution I had. The year before that was a year of yes, and I was like, year of no. I've got to have a year of no.
Oh yeah, yeah. So there's an opposite goal for that. It's called acceptance, which is learning how to say yes. But they're really different in terms of how things go. So the discrimination, there's a lot of things in your life that you actually have control of letting out of your life that are not serving you. So might be some difficult experiences you're having, but it could be with people or situations or whatever. And then you have to learn how to say, no, that's not right for me. I need to get this out of my life, or I need to, have some disconnection from that, or whatever it is. That's like the overall, the big lesson is that you're protecting yourself and refining your direction in life through the things you say no to, basically.
That's great.
Yeah. And also it's tied with the artisan as a, like, energy wise, archetypally and everything. And so there's a kind of a creative element to it too. So the people who have like discrimination, some of them are like George Lucas and like Quentin Tarantino. They have discrimination. And so how that helps them, and how I can see it helping you, is like you can fine tune like your creative work and decide like, these elements aren't actually what I want in what I'm doing, and I want to focus on this stuff instead. So it lets you pick apart things and like decide like what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of. And as you do that, it helps refine your vision for things, and like gets you like a very unique kind of approach to things.
Cool.
Yeah. So actually my partner Cora has discrimination too, and we've been talking about that a lot. So I've been learning a lot about that. Yeah. So then your attitude is stoic. So attitude is kind of the lens in which you look at everything in this life. And the stoic one is tied to the inspiration axis. But really what it's focused on is like more focused on the internal domain of things, and not so much phased by what's happening on the external. Like things could be happening out there, and like you're stoic about it. Like you're just cool and like unaffected. It's like whatever's happening out there, whatever, it's fine. But what I'm really focused on is what's happening internally and emotionally in the inner plane of my experience. So that's the big thing for you and your attitude. I have the same attitude. I'm also stoic. So I have a similar approach. I think that really helps with our music stuff because it helps us tune into the internal and express that and bring that out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool. You have reserve mode, which is more like kind of with how you deal with your energy and how you express, and that means you're kind of like holding on to the energy inside and letting it out when it's necessary. So you kind of like hold things in and then let it out slowly. They usually talk about that, how that relates to like dancers and how dancers use their energy. They hold it in reserve and they let it out. And that helps with that kind of thing. My sister has reserve also, but it's also one of the inspirational modes too.
Cool.
Yeah. So there's also centering. There's like 4 centers. There's emotional, intellectual, physical, and moving. And so your main center is emotional, which means that you filter all your experiences mainly through your emotions. So your emotional experience is going to be very dominant in your experience. You're going to be really in touch with your emotional experience of everything. And then it goes into your second center, which is intellectual. So basically your emotional experiences will inform what you think about and the way you look at things intellectually. So you're going to be bouncing in between those two things a lot. Mine's really different. Mine's physical, moving. So I'm like all in touch with my body and what the energy my body feels like and going into movement with that. So it's a really different one. But yeah, your emotions is going to be a really big thing with that. So these ones, the obstacles, these are actually really important things. The names for them, for all these things, are kind of like blunt and intense because the system was made by like the language developed for these is by a soul family that's all warriors and kings. So they have this kind of like the kind of words that they choose for it is kind of like intense. So you don't necessarily know what this means by looking at the words. But the first obstacle, so these are fear patterns basically that we take on in each life to learn certain lessons and learn how to overcome them, which helps us grow a lot. If we didn't have these, everything would be too easy. You know, there would just be nothing. There wouldn't be too much to work on. You know.
Yep.
So you being in the old soul age, you're going to actually have a little bit more awareness of these patterns than somebody who's in an earlier soul age. When you're in an earlier soul age, it's more unconscious. But the greed one is basically manifest from not getting the love and attention that you needed when you were young. This is how it could manifest, or it could have been adopted from your parents. Like maybe they had this obstacle. But basically, it can develop this feeling like I didn't get the love and warmth. So like in my heart, it feels like empty, or there's something, you know, there's a lack feeling there. And so to compensate for that, you might go out and crave experiences that would somehow stimulate the feeling of being full. You know, like I'll like have this experience or that experience or this relationship or love connection or whatever it is, and it'll be different for each person. But that's like to compensate with the feeling. But to really heal it is to realize that you actually have everything inside you and that the love is there inside you. But it could be a process. There's this really good book on the obstacles called Transforming Your Dragons that goes into detail about all this. And I have, if you look on this chart, I sent you the link to this, all these underlined things, you can click on those, and I have videos on those.
Thank you.
So you can go and read about these more, like, and watch my videos and learn more about them.
Sweet. I will.
Yeah. So your second obstacle is martyrdom, which is kind of like what I guess if Jesus had an obstacle, that's what his would be.
That's what it always is, that I've got to be a martyr.
Oh yeah. So the martyrdom is like how it could manifest. Usually, how they describe it, and like these all manifest in childhood in some form. They're either adopted by the parents or from circumstances when you're growing up. But it could be like that some kind of oppressive force was keeping you down or suppressing you, and then you didn't have they could have developed a feeling of being like a victim. you know?
Oh yeah,
Like,
I was born with a club foot and I didn't walk for like the first 4 years. And
oh,
everybody, poor Veronica, poor Veronica, poor Veronica.
uh,
That's how it
yeah.
was.
So sometimes when people have martyrdom, they can be complaining a lot. Like, oh, poor me, like nothing else
Yeah.
works on my way, blah, blah, blah. I'm just feeling like a victim all the time.
Yep.
The real way to heal that is to be like, I actually am not a victim. I can do things. I can go in the direction I need to. I can take care of myself. I can deal with what I need to deal with. And I don't feel this. You can overcome like the feeling of being like oppressed by some other force that you don't have control of. You know.
That's valuable.
Yeah. So that's something you can just reflect on and see for yourself how those resonate. And you can watch my videos on that and check out that book, Transforming Your Dragons, if you want to read more about it. It's a really good book. So there's a couple of little things last in this chart. There's body types that have different kind of energies to them. Yours is Saturnian, which actually aligns with the priest energy, but it has a flavor of like leadership. It's like an active, masculine energy, but it's the how the body type actually looks is they're usually like kind of really tall and they have like broad shoulders, and they're like lanky and kind of like it's like it's like Abraham Lincoln.
Oh yeah.
Or Uncle Sam. Like that's kind of the Saturnian look. So you might have like kind of like there's like kind of like a bony gaunt element to it that could be there.
Maybe if I wasn't on these meds, I would look like that. They definitely pack on the pounds for me.
Me too. Yeah, I actually have Saturnian also. It's my main one. So so like for me, like I got these broad shoulders, you know, like shoulders like really wide and stuff, and I'm tall, you know, so I have like the Saturnian kind of look. And then your second one is Mercurial, which is tied with the Sage energy, and the Sages are all about communication, and Mercury is all about communication too. So that the communication aspect is going to be really strong for you, and so you're going to have that communicative energy tied to your body that's going to help you with that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then so get into the last two things here. Quadrant is support. So in a group setting, like the position you take and how you help people is you're the support role. You're the one that will be like, okay, you guys are working on this. I'll come in and I'll help you with this or that. There's different ones like power. Those are the ones that kind of lead the energy. There's knowledge, which is the one I have, which is kind of providing the information about different things. And then there's well, let's make this like an enjoyable experience kind of thing. But you really want to support people in your group settings. Yeah. That's what you would do. And then so your needs are adventure, expression, and freedom. So you'll feel really tied to anything that makes it feel like an adventure. That you're off like having an adventure. You need the adventure to feel like fulfilled. Expression, you know, you need creativity. You need to express yourself somehow, and by doing that, you'll fulfill that need. And freedom is also like having the freedom to go and do the different things you want to do. Like I want to be able to move in this direction. I want to be able to do this. And I think, especially with the adventure and freedom together, it's gonna be harder to have like a 9-to-5 job that you just have to go to every day. You know,
like, kids.
Yeah, like that's gonna be harder. You're gonna need a lot more freedom and adventure. You know, you're gonna need to be able to go out there and go on quests. And
that is me. Actually, everybody that has asked me, especially kids that I work with, they're like, "Where are your kids?"
Oh,
I'm always like, "I forgot to have them."
Yeah.
So yes, I do need that feeling of freedom and adventure and all. Yeah, this is all very accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all the stuff that I just listed for the overleaves. That's the characteristics you took on for this life, and so that's all your Michael chart stuff.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So sweet of you.
Is there anything that you want to say about that before we move on to the Vedic astrology stuff?
What's the discarnate? Does that mean they're not in this life?
They're not in a body right now, a physical body. So they're on the astral plane.
Maybe
so your essence twin and your task companion are both helping you on the astral plane.
There you go.
Now. Yeah.
So that's okay. Yeah, go on. Yeah, whatever you're gonna go to next is
okay. Yeah, it's a really cool. So overall, just to point out some things. Yeah, priest and warrior mix. You know, you got this love orientation and the emotional kind of focus. the emotions are going to be really big. Salvage and salvation, so wanting to help people with their spiritual growth. Prudence, help people in a more grounded way towards their purpose in this life, but also in a kind of inspirational way. Old soul age, so you're doing more more focus on the context and being more of a teacher in this part of life of this in your cycle. Discrimination, so you're learning how to say no and develop better discernment. Stoic is more emotional, focus on the emotional inner world and not so affected by the outer. So you got a lot of priest and inspirational access stuff tied in with like some creative stuff, like the artisan kind of stuff. That's why you got the yellows and blues, but then also like some red stuff too, which is the action axis stuff. So yeah, that's your Michael chart.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to this.
Yeah. So we're going to the last part here now, which is your Vedic astrology. So let me get that that tab up. So yeah, I discovered Vedic astrology about like 10, 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I never resonated with my Western chart. Like I read about it and stuff, and it's just like, this doesn't feel quite right.
Right.
And then one of my spiritual teachers introduced me to Vedic astrology, and I got to learn my chart. And then I was like, oh wow, this is like talking about like really deep, different things that are going on in my life and the way I am, and it's like it resonated so deeply.
Cool.
They actually have a different calculation for the zodiac than what they use in Western, and not a lot of people in the Western world know this, but the calculation is off for the Western astrology for the tropical zodiac. It's actually almost a whole sign off. Like it'll tell you you're a certain sign, but you're actually usually the sign before.
Oh,
yeah,
like a Libra, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, you'd be a Libra. Yeah. So Vedic astrology has a longer tradition than Western astrology has. Western astrology has been going on for like 2,000 years, but Vedic is like 6,000.
Wow.
And it's like deeply embedded in their culture. They have it. They teach it in universities. They have temples to all the different like the signs and the planets and stuff. They have temples dedicated to each one. They use it when people are getting married. They look at each other's charts to see what themes are going to be operating with them. It's like they use it a lot, you know.
Oh yeah.
And it's all fucked up in our Western culture because actually the system is really flawed overall. There's certain things you can get out of Western, which is the aspects, like where the planets are in relation to each other, which will create certain energies. Which that stuff is accurate, and there's people have done research on that. That's really profound and compelling. But yeah, the signs don't work, and the houses, which is the areas of life, the system they use for that doesn't work either. But in Vedic, they figured it out. They know how it works. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I see in your chart.
Okay.
So the big thing overall, in terms of the signs, you got Libra like crazy. You've got Saturn, Pluto, Mercury, Venus, Sun, your rising sign, and Jupiter all in Libra. That's a lot. That's a lot. All those planets are in Libra. So the Libra energy that's ruled by Venus. So Venus is like the artistic, the social, the creative, all that kind of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And Libra really emphasizes that kind of stuff. Libra is also really tied to relationships. So there's going to be like a deep need to like nurture relationships and value that really deeply.
Yes.
And there's also a tie for Libra. They have like the scales as the symbol for the Libra, which there's a tie to like justice and fairness and wanting to value those kinds of things a lot. So you actually have you got two yogas, which are like certain planetary placements and signatures in your chart that are really strong. And so you have Venus in Libra, and because Venus rules Libra, it's really strong. So, and it's in the first house. So all these, because these are all your ascendant is Libra, all these planets are in your first house. First house is you. It's like your body, your physical presence, who you really are. So you have all this energy from all these different planets, all tied to your presence. So you're gonna have like a really big, powerful presence in this Libra signature way because all these planets are in Libra. So the Venus, what that would mean is your Venusian qualities are going to be really strong. because it's in one of the most powerful houses, the first house, which is you. So yeah, all those qualities like the artistic, social, creative, sociable stuff. Yeah, that's all gonna be really strong. And then you have another one that's really important to look at is Saturn in Libra. When Saturn's in Libra, it's exalted, so it's in its strongest sign for itself. And Saturn is like the energy that's all about like discipline and legacy and leadership and stuff like that. So and it moves really slow through things. So it takes a long time to build up like what you're doing. So I actually have Saturn and Capricorn in the first house. So I'm a Saturnian type like you. We both have Saturn stuff going on, and your Saturn's really strong, being exalted. But yeah, that could be a kind of a signature for you of since you were young, like feeling like there's a lot of you have a heavy responsibility. Like it feels like weighing you down potentially having Saturn there. But yeah, it also means that it's going to take constant work throughout your life to build up what you're doing, and that might manifest more later in life than for people who have other signature things. But it's good because you actually have the wisdom. You actually have the vision and the wisdom there, and that's going to manifest over time. So like just like trust that things are going to, as you're on your path and everything, like just keep doing it and it'll lead you to awesome places.
Great.
Awesome stuff is always seems to be happening with you, but trust that just stick with it and awesome shit will happen. You're a leader, you have the wisdom, and that's going to be the big thing. So you have other planets there, the sun, that's like your expression, your outer expression, your ego. Jupiter is like kind of the spiritual guru kind of energy, all tied to Libra. Mercury, that's like your mind, that's all Libra. So yeah, that's the big thing there. The other big thing to look at is your moon. And the moon, they have something called nakshatras in Vedic astrology, which is smaller divisions of the signs that have their own unique characteristics. So they're more specific, and they're actually ruled by different planets than the main sign. But your moon is in Aries, so you're gonna have like kind of this action-oriented, spontaneous, like childlike energy, but also there's a lot of a pioneering kind of energy and like leadership kind of stuff going on with that. But it's in this nakshatra called Bharani, and Bharani means the bearer. It's someone that holds on to energy and builds up energy and then lets it go in like a creative act potentially.
That's
accurate. Yeah. The symbol is like the vagina, and they use that as kind of a metaphor for the like a portal. It's like you have this internal world that you're building up, and you can feel things really deeply. Your emotional experience can be really heavy and intense. Like it'd be really hard emotions that you're feeling, but you're building up the energy and processing it and letting it grow, and then you're letting it out in your creative acts. And I actually have the same exact moon and nakshatra as you do.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, There's each of these nakshatras are also ruled by a certain god, and the god for this one is Yama, which is the god of death. So that's also tied to like the portal into the next life, or the going into the astral. Like after you die, like where you go, Yama will be there saying, "Hey, let me go up to that light, go through that portal, and it'll lead you to the other plane." That's kind of a signature thing. So there's a big tie to birth and death with this moon, in this nakshatra. So you're gonna go through lots of birth and death transformations.
So Lord, I already know I have.
Yeah. So yeah, this nakshatra is also, Bharani is ruled by Venus. So there's more of that artistic, creative element to it. But yeah, the intensity of the emotions is part of that. Also tied to the occult in some way, like the hidden secret knowledge or different things like that. A lot of people like Carl Jung, the depth psychologist, he has a Bharani moon. Also Sigmund Freud has a lot of Bharani placements. So there's this tie to psychology and interest in that as part of being at that moon also. So that's really interesting to look at. The other main thing I wanted to talk about for this chart is your Rahu Ketu axis, and what that means is Rahu is like the energy that you're moving towards in this life, the area you're craving experience in. So it's what you're like. I really want to go and explore this domain of things, and so the Rahu Ketu are the nodes of the moon. They're basically the points where the moon intersects the ecliptic, where the path where all the planets are going around. So they're kind of like these invisible points that are like infused with these special energies. And one of them's Rahu, which is what you're moving towards, and K2 is the opposite one. They're always opposite from each other in the chart, and K2 is your past life focus.
Okay.
So actually, I'll talk about your K2 first, and then I'll talk about what you're moving towards. Cool. So your K2, the K2 is more spiritual. It shows what you've already kind of mastered or been focusing on in past lives. So it's like the storehouse of everything from your past. It's like tied to like when you're looking at like a body as a symbol. It's the body, the actual body without the head, while Rahu is more the head without the body. So the Rahu is like the part that will consume and like digest things and like intellectualize things a lot. That's more Rahu, and K2 is more the body, what you've already processed. It's what's like instinctual to your being at this point, basically.
I see.
Yeah. So this is when I originally asked you for your chart. That was like a few years ago, or like it was probably like maybe like 6 years ago now, I think.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, but I was like, I wonder if she's got Mars conjunct K2. And then I got your chart and you had Mars conjunct K2. And so
you're like, correct.
Yeah. And the reason I said that is because I have Mars conjunct K2. And for me, that really signifies the bipolar experience. Because what that means is your Mars energy is your drive, your passion, your willpower, that vital primal energy, basically, right? So what that means is when it's with your K2, it signifies that you've been working on your kind of like your warrior energy in past lives. And then we were looking at your essence and how you have that warrior stuff going on, right? So in your Michael chart. So what that means is in past lives, you were focused on, you're probably having a lot of experiences with war and primal energy and engaging with that energy and building up that energy. So you have this power that you've been cultivating from past lives. And so when it's with K2, that means like you're in this life, you're learning how to manifest the deepest wisdom and lessons of the Mars energy. Like how do I use my Mars energy in a way that really serves people the most? Basically, you're finalizing the Mars energy in a way that you can. It's more oriented towards leadership. Like how do I be a leader with my Mars energy? It's like you can think about yourself as like kind of the commander in war and being like the one that's like, I've been through so many wars, and you know, like,
when I was 18.
Yeah, but like I've got the wisdom and the experience, and so you guys are going to trust me and what I've developed in all this time. So that's basically what the Mars K2 can represent archetypally. But it does have this tie to bipolar, because they say that with Mars K2 you have big fluctuations in energy. So sometimes you'll have so much energy, like it's like overwhelming how much energy you have. And then sometimes you'll be bereft of energy. You'll just have no energy, you know?
Yes.
And that's bipolar 1. You know?
That is bipolar 1.
Yeah. So we both have that, you know?
Wow.
So it's really interesting to see that. And the other people that I've seen that have Mars K2, same thing. They've got bipolar 1 kind of stuff going on.
Wow.
So this is manifesting on a soul level in your chart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Another thing that you have conjunct K2 is Neptune. And Neptune is it's like the otherworldly, dreamy, visionary, fantasizing, creative, artistic, intuitive kind of energy. So what that means is you've been developing that aspect a lot in past lives as well. So this could really contribute to your kind of like visionary experience. And you can see this as tying more to the priest side of things. You know, because the priest has this high frequency connection to the higher planes and the astral and like getting visions and stuff. And so that could even amplify your experience during your bipolar experiences, or in general, where you have these like visions, or you might even say are hallucinations or whatever. But
Right.
I would say visions. They're actually visions. But it's just hard. It's like hard to like get to a grounded place to be able to channel that and use that energy correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, you've been working on that aspect really a lot in past lives too.
Mm.
So you're learning how to finalize and use that energy in the best possible way in this life.
Cool.
Yeah. So some other things about your Rahu K2 axis is the signs that it's in. So your K2 is in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is the truth seeker, the adventurer, the one that wants to look at the higher, like focus on higher knowledge and philosophy and like the higher side of things, like the spiritual. But really, it has a tie to your own truth. So basically, what that means is all these planets, Neptune, Mars, and K2, are tied to your desire and your natural impulse to be in touch with your own truth, to be on an adventure, and have that kind of you've already been focusing on that kind of element of or side of things a lot in past lives.
That's what my name means.
Huh?
That's what Veronica means.
Oh, really?
Truth.
What? Oh, well, that's cool.
And truth.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
One of the things it means. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So yeah, that's what you've been focusing on in past lives. That's all your K2 stuff that I want to talk about. I'll talk about the house in a second too. But in terms of the signs, because K2 and Rahu are also always opposite from each other, your Rahu is going to bring you towards the opposite side of things. The opposite sign, which is a different archetype, the opposite opposing archetype, basically. And that for Rahu is in Gemini. And Gemini is the one that is focused on communication. It's focused on seeing other people's perspectives, relating to other people, connecting one-on-one with people, mirroring people, getting to see their, the way they see things, and relating to other people from different perspectives, basically. So that's going to be really the big focus in this life. What you're moving towards in terms of the sign archetype is you're bringing your truth that you've developed from past lives, and you're learning how to communicate with other people and connect with other people, and learn how to relate that to other people who have different perspectives, basically. So that's like the big, the sign axis that you got for your Rahu K2 is what you're going to be jumping between the two things all the time, is those two elements. Yeah. So another thing is the houses. And the houses are the areas of life. They actually do tie to the signs. Like basically the signs are the established like archetypal representations of things. More on the personality level is the signs, and then the houses are more like the areas of life. But they actually do have very similar energies. And what's interesting about your chart is that because you're a Libra ascendant, Libra is the one that's opposite from Aries, and Aries is the first sign. So basically Aries kind of represents the first house, and Libra kind of represents the seventh house, basically. Anyway, what that means is that your Rahu is when you're a Libra ascendant, your Rahu is always going to be in the opposite house from the natural sign signification. So what that means is your Rahu is in the ninth house. Ninth house is tied to like Sagittarius kind of energy. So that's more going towards your higher knowledge, the truth. It's tied to gurus and philosophy. It's tied to long distance travel. So travel could be a big element, but it's like expanding your horizons, going on adventures, connecting with gurus and higher teachings. And so that's going to be a big element of what you're moving towards and attracted to, and the area of life that you're attracted to.
Cool.
Another thing that the ninth house is tied to is father. So what that could mean is that since your Rahu is there, your dad will be more like a Rahu kind of person. And what that means is kind of Rahu is usually signified as worldly powerful. So there's going to be this powerful, and also it's all consuming in a way. This doesn't always match perfectly, but it's something that you can think about with the Rahu energy. I don't know too much about your dad, but there might be some kind of significations that he might have this kind of Rahu energy. worldly powerful in some way like that.
He was. It's interesting because when he passed away in 2019, I remember thinking like he was weak, and that I had never seen him like that. He was very powerful. It was
Yeah.
weird to see him not powerful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So the last thing is your K2 is in the third house. So third house is tied to communication. It's tied to media. It could be tied to the arts. A lot of people have strong third house placements that are tied to the arts or music, stuff like that. For me, I have my Mercury in the third house. So that ties me to my intellect being tied to communication and to media and to the arts and music and stuff. So basically, this could represent that you've built up this kind of artistic, media focused, communication focused energy from past lives and being able to relate to other people and communicate with other people. Like, kind of like the Gemini kind of thing. So basically, the big axis for you to look at is going from overall is like a balance between your own truth and then everybody else's perspective, and the arts and higher knowledge and higher truths and adventure, and then relating to your community, like your local community, and then the bigger community overall in the world, and like traveling. And so those are the big themes overall with your Rahu K2 axis.
Cool.
So yeah, that's basically all the things I wanted to point out in your chart here.
Wow, this is
so
amazing.
Yeah,
you know so much about it.
yeah, I've been spending some time, like, I'm taking courses on these things, and as a scholar, like I love studying that stuff, and because I'm in the mature soul age, I'm like learning most about me and the internal, like on a deep emotional level, like who I am. So I've always been like trying to seek out like who am I, who am I really. But in that process of doing that, like I just like craved like the knowledge and experience of all those things, like, and so it just led me to like to seek out this stuff and try to master and learn as much as I can about these systems. One thing that I have is interesting is I have Rahu in Sagittarius and K2 in Gemini. So you know how you have Rahu in Gemini and K2 in Sagittarius.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like we have a similar thing going on, but like I'm coming from where you're going, and you're going to where I'm coming from.
We're gonna pass each other on the way.
Yeah, it's cool. So what I noticed for me is when I was younger, like I was more on the Gemini side, so I was more able to relate to other people's perspectives and like see how other people see the world and different things like that. And there was something that happened where when I would be at work, I would always I would be matching somebody's outfit like perfectly, and it was different people. Like I would match this person one day, and I would come in a different day, and I'd be matching somebody else. And like why is this happening? I don't get it. But I think it's because I had this Gemini thing, which is the relating to other people kind of thing. And then now, like I've developed in terms of like my style or whatever, I have like certain colors and things that I really gravitate towards. So I wear like blacks and dark blues and dark reds and stuff like that. And I've been getting more and more into the Rahu stuff. There's actually planetary periods that I could tell you about at some point. It's more of a deeper analysis kind of thing, but we have planetary periods where each of those planets is ruling our life, and those are the big themes wherever that planet is in your chart, what that's connected to and what's going on. So I'm actually in the Rahu period right now for me, and so I'm moving towards the Sagittarius stuff like actively right now, and that's higher knowledge and like higher education and like stuff like that. And so it really explains why I've been attracted to all these systems and like try to seek this higher knowledge kind of stuff.
Yes.
So that explains why I've been doing all that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's your charts and stuff.
Yay! You said something about not the god of death. What did you say about? You touched on it for just a hot second.
Yeah, Yama.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the god of death. Yeah.
Okay, well, who is Isis and Osiris? They're the.
So yeah, I know a little bit about Isis and Osiris, so the Egyptian gods.
Of death, right?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
There's actually I did this one video talking about the Aeons, and Aleister Crowley's talked about the Aeons of Isis and Osiris and stuff. basically Isis is like the mother, and Osiris is like the father. And then there's Horus, which is the child. So basically, in terms of the aeons, the aeon of Isis is when we were kind of in touch with nature, where there was a lot of mother religions, where the mother was the archetype that we were like worshiping or looking up to or whatever. And then at some point that shifted into the Osiris, which is where we started developing our society on a deeper level and establishing like rules and laws and what we should obey and follow. And then we kind of distance ourselves from the nature religions and past and connection to nature and the mother. And then we started burning witches and like
we didn't burn witches, we burned women.
And women, yeah, exactly. But yeah, they were all women. They're just women. I know.
I'm like, oh no. How many of those witches were men? Oh, none of them? You burned women and you called them
witches. It's just women. Yeah, it's a good point. But yeah, so like actually Christianity was a manifestation of the Aeon of Osiris, and the whole God concept as being male, the whole male thing. It's because as we stepped into the Aeon of Osiris, we were adopting the perspective that looking up to the father archetypally. Like, what does father have to tell me? What rules do I have to follow? How do I need to be and conduct myself? And that was kind of what Christianity developed out of. And the connection to the nature focused stuff from the Aeon of Isis was forgotten. And so during the Aeon of Osiris, which we're still kind of in on some level, there's still the demonization of the nature and the women and stuff like that side. But we're moving into the Aeon of Horus, which is where we actually reintegrate that past connection to the feminine, to its emotions, to intuition, and to the unconscious and stuff like that. And that's actually what's happening for people who are in the mature soul age. That aligns with going into Aeon of Horus. And so does the old soul age ties to the Aeon of Horus as well. So you're already in the Aeon of Horus on an archetypal level in terms of your stages of development in your lives. That's where you're at, Wow. Yeah. So
how cool.
Yeah. It was really cool to get to do this with you.
You too. I really appreciate you taking the time to like learn all of this for me. And like, give me such introspective stuff to like look at after this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else that you wanted to say on that stuff or the stuff we were talking about before?
Well, I was going to say my one of my former partners did a past life regression, and I showed up in like 5 of them as her husband.
Oh.
And I was like, was I a good husband? That was my first question. And she was like, you were. I was like, huh. But they said I was Osiris in one of the lives.
Oh.
And they said or the god of death, which is interesting if that were the case, because I am scared of death. And I feel like the thing we fear most is ourselves.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this has been really valuable, Alex. I'm going to be out there in March, so we'll have to get together.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. That'd be awesome.
Yes.
You got a show? Is it a secret show?
I have a show on the 15th and on the 20th, and then I don't know when else. I might have a couple other shows on.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, I look forward to that. I would love to see you in person.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. Well, I think we'll continue. We'll conclude it here then.
Okay.
Thank you so much for doing this with me, and thanks to everybody who gets stayed through to the end for this. And we'll see you guys in the next videos.